Chinese propaganda through their embassies trying to prove that their weapon systems are better than the French systems or Russian systems or Indian systems. Operation Sindoor was being seen by the world, especially the third world countries. So intention was to prove to the world that Chinese weapon system and Turkish weapon systems and some of the inventory of Pakistan also has Western weapon systems, including the aircrafts. So intention was to prove that these weapon systems are better than the Russian, the Indian or French. This propaganda is basically to keep their weapons market and clients intact, which I think is known to the whole world by now.
There are reports that have emerged that China has deployed or had deployed its embassies to spread doubts about the performance of French-made Rafale jets, this after Operation Sindoor. What are the implications of such propaganda and narrative war? To discuss this and more, I'm being joined by Lieutenant General K.J.S. Dhillon, former DGDIA. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us here. Let's begin with the assertion by China when it comes to this fake news or narrative building that we are seeing, using its missions and cultural centers as listening posts, sir.
Good evening, ma'am, and good evening to all your viewers. Chinese propaganda through their embassies trying to prove that their weapon systems are better than the French systems or Russian systems or Indian systems. Operation Sindoor was being seen by the world, especially the third world countries, who are biggest importers of the weapon systems from all these top-ranking manufacturers of the world weapon systems. That includes China. So intention was to prove to the world that Chinese weapon system and Turkish weapon systems and some of the inventory of Pakistan also has Western weapon systems, including the aircrafts. So intention was to prove that these weapon systems are better than the Russian, the Indian or French, so that the next orders come to these industries. Whereas the truth on ground was that within 72 hours, Pakistan's air defense was down, Pakistan's air force was grounded, and India could hit their 13 air bases and other installations at will on the third day, that is on the 10th of May morning. And because of this, what was seen by the world, the stock markets of Chinese reacted to this truth. And on 13th of May, Chinese markets defense index fell by 3%. And two of the main weapon manufacturing companies, and I got the names, typical Chinese names, two of the main weapon defense manufacturing companies, their shares slipped by 8.6% and 6.3% respectively in a single day on 13th of May. Now, markets are not driven by propaganda. Markets are driven by actuals. And when the actuals came to be known to the world, Chinese market slumped. So it was a real life trials going on of the Chinese aircrafts, Chinese radars, Chinese missiles vis-a-vis Indian air defense system, the Indian joint venture systems like BrahMos, and Russian systems like S-400, and French systems, say, Rafales. So this propaganda is basically to keep their weapons market and clients intact, which I think is known to the whole world by now.
Well, very interesting, sir. But then again, we are seeing a lot of conflicts. And in this day and age of conflicts and wars, Operation Sindoor being one very critical one, are we looking at a battle for arms trade over here?
Absolutely, ma'am. In this particular conflict, this was the first conflict in the history where two nuclear powers were involved in war fighting with each other. Never before this, the two nuclear powers have ever come to this type of a situation. And this was also the first time in the history that a nuclear power was downed within 72 hours. Their air defense was down, their air force was down, and their defensive mechanism was down, and Indian weapon systems and Indian projectiles could hit all their essential strategic assets, airfields and others at will. And it was accepted by none other than, or no less than, the Prime Minister of Pakistan, when he told that the Chief of Army Staff called him in the night and told him the Noor Khan Air Base, which is one of the strategic assets next to a strategic division, that has been hit. And our DGs of air operations, the army military operations, the naval operations, in the media briefings have shown the videos and the satellite imageries and the weapon-mounted camera imageries to prove that all the weapon systems we fired, nothing could be intercepted by Chinese radars or Chinese air defense system or Turkish air defense systems, which Pakistan was using. Whereas all our weapon systems hit the intended target on 10th morning, none of the projectiles, including Chinese missiles and Chinese aircrafts, could hit any of our military installations over the 3 days which they were trying. So Indian air defense system, Russian and French, as I said, they proved far more superior than the Chinese and Turkish. But the Western media had a narrative to sell that Indian weapon systems or the Russian or French weapon systems were not good enough, because they were looking at long-term defense sales market. So for that reason, they have even used their embassies to spread this false narrative that Chinese weapon systems were better. And we all know all that, false narrative of so many aircrafts downed and all. In the end, on the 4th day of the battle, Pakistan was down to their knees, and that is when at exactly 3:35 p.m., their DGMO picked up the phone, called up our DGMO, and asked for cessation of hostilities.
Well,
so this is the truth which the world knows.
Well, General Dhillon, just wanted to ask, the fact that you've called it unprecedented, in your experience, this is new. And China has been employing these tactics for some time now. But in terms of arms deals, in terms of discrediting a particular weapon system or a jet, have you ever, in your experience, seen what the Chinese have done in the past as well, where they discredited a particular system, weapon system, or a jet, so on and so forth, to ensure that they further their interests?
This was a very deep-rooted conspiracy, and this has not been hatched by Chinese alone. There are other players whose interest lies in selling their weapon systems if they prove to the world by false narrative that Indian, French, or Russian weapon systems were beaten during Operation Sindoor. So it is, Chinese are not alone in this. The Chinese are using their embassies, which have got some sort of a sanctity. But notwithstanding that, this false narrative was peddled by the Western media very, very aggressively, and they're still doing it. Whereas the truth in photography and the videos is out, which has been told by our defense operational directorates, and it is all over the world. But in spite of getting hit, in spite of the video evidence, in spite of the evidence by their own citizens recording on their mobiles, the airfields going up in flames, they will still continue to peddle this false narrative. But then that's the way geostrategy has come down to these days.
Again, a very interesting point, General Dhillon. You're saying that, and it is interesting because, we were talking about this and discussing it with my colleagues as well, that the Chinese, and this report has only come out now. Western media had put out stories from Washington, D.C. much before this, where they had said that Rafale's, they firstly claimed that Rafale has been downed, and that they are not, that they cannot withstand the Chinese systems.
Ma'am, we are at a very crucial phase in the history of warfare, where aircrafts, 4th generation and 5th generation is coming out, 6th generation is under development, and a lot of third world countries and developing countries in the world, they have their localized problems, they have the localized enemies on their borders, and they are wanting to buy these 4th generation and 5th generation aircrafts. And then comes Operation Sindoor. And suddenly the whole apple cart is turned overnight. When it is proved that Chinese aircrafts, Chinese radars, Chinese missiles were no match to Indian defense system, as I said earlier, And Pakistan also has on their inventory certain Western weapon systems and platforms, especially the aerial platforms. So when the world was getting ready to pick up these systems from the Western side, Western media, Western world, including Chinese, then this war comes in, a 4-day war comes in, and everyone gets to know the depth and truth of Chinese platforms as also the Western platforms, vis-a-vis the Indian joint venture, French and Russian platforms. So at very crucial time in the history, this Operation Sindoor came in, which proved good for Indian systems and French and Russian, and other way around for the others.
Right. And finally, before I let you go, General Dhillon, zooming out a little and just talking about India and Make in India, do you think that India can take up the challenge of these narrative building on which weapon system is better, stronger, and actually be an alternative to maybe some of the countries where we are an important defense partner?
Ma'am, tomorrow's war is going to be fought only if you have indigenous capabilities.
That's true.
No one in the world is going to help you during a war, because then they will ask for their pound of flesh. So for India, a country like India, the only country in the world which has got 2 nuclear neighbors, and both of them are not friendly to you, we have to stand on our feet. We have to progress with Make in India, and we need to be self-reliant in the defense of our nation. And for that, not only the technologies which are mature and available outside as joint ventures, technologies which our government defense and research organizations are doing, our private defense industry has also matured big time. And their development of development R&D also needs to be pushed, and a helping hand has to be given there, so that joint venture technology, indigenously developed technology, whether by private industry or by government organizations, we need to set up industry in our own country. It will also give employment, it will also cut down the cost, and more importantly, it will be available to us during all phases of the war. And not that at crucial phase in a battle or war, we are running around asking for ammunition or asking for spares or asking for technical know-how. So we need to be on our 2 feet. A country who is 4th largest in the economy, who is 1/6 of the world in population, and by extension the market, who is the largest democracy in the world, we need to be self-sustaining in defense. And that is a need of yesterday. Even if we fulfill it by tomorrow, I think we will be doing very well.
Lieutenant General K.J.S. Dhillon, thank you so much for joining us here.